Three, two,
Two, one.
one.
Hello,
Hello
and
and
welcome to
welcome.
Run with a View. Oh, sorry.
That's right, and welcome to
Uh,
Run with a View. You
yeah,
anticipated my,
I,
my
I, I
introduction
did
there.
indeed. I
It
did.
is quite easy
Yeah.
to remember. Uh,
Mm,
Run with a View
yeah.
is two middle-aged blokes retreating reflexively to days of
Hmm.
yore, revisiting a time when they were feckless teenagers as opposed to feckless middle-aged blokes. I'm Stu.
Indeed. And I'm Alan, and welcome to
Alan,
Run with a View.
welcome to Run with a View once again.
Yeah.
And what is today's film?
It is Pulp Fiction, 1994, Quentin Tarantino's second major movie. Yeah, Pulp Fiction.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
That's right. It's not
Mm.
Star Wars.
It's not, yeah. So sorry about us. So just to because this is a little bit different. Sadly, I'm nursing the bottom end or the back end of a cold. So I am drinking rum. This is a rum toddy. That's why it's in my Star Wars mug. And sorry to confuse you. You saw Star Wars right at the beginning, and you thought we will be getting to it. Don't worry.
We'll do Star
So
Wars one day, I'm
we
sure,
will, we
but
will.
not
Yeah.
today.
So forgive me if I need to cough, sneeze, blow my nose, and yeah.
I'll try
So
and edit
but
them out.
anyway. Hmm.
So even though I'm the one who's looking pale,
Yeah.
Alan has much nicer cinematography on his new camera, but I'm the one who feels
Mm.
all right. So funnily enough, yes, Pulp Fiction released in
Mm.
1994
Indeed.
to a
Yeah.
rapturous reception because it was the
Indeed.
the new film from Quentin Tarantino, who was
Yeah.
at the time regarded
Mm.
mostly by people who hadn't seen enough movies as the
Mm.
new Messiah. What is Pulp Fiction? It's a sort of a crime
Mm.
comedy drama about a circle of
Yeah.
characters getting into, they're the sort of characters you might find in a cheap pulp novel,
Mm-hmm.
hence Pulp Fiction.
Position. Yeah.
And they get into some increasingly outrageous situations
Mm-hmm.
in various parts of Los Angeles,
Yeah. Exactly.
uh, in what may or may not be the modern day. I'm going to come
Yes.
on to that
Well,
later.
yeah. The main really structure of the movie as well is it's how it's broken up. So this is one of the other things that brought it to be kind of quite cutting edge for its
Mm.
time. It's basically you've got three what seems like independent stories
It seems like an
broke
anthology, but it isn't it?
exactly, but it's
Or
broken
it
into
is and it isn't.
five. So it's three stories broken into five chapters. And this was quite groundbreaking for its time, and yeah, really, really interesting to watch.
And in the decades
Okay,
since
I
it's
thought you were going on to Dickens.
in the what the Dickens
Yeah.
in the decade since its release, it sort of became a kind of a
Mm,
cult classic, and then
yeah.
just a classic, I think, without the cult
Mm. It
qualifier.
is. I mean, it's a modern day classic now, but I don't
Yeah,
think you can't dispute that.
and now it's 30
Um,
years old. It's like it's old enough to be
it's
it's
it
stuck
can be
around long
classed
enough,
as a
hasn't it?
classic because it's
Yeah,
older than 25 years. So
without
in this,
qualification. So, Alan,
yeah. Mm.
where, how, and why did you first see this film?
I didn't see it at the cinema.
Me neither.
No, but I did see it multiple times on VHS and
Same here.
DVD and Blu-ray and streaming. It's not the kind of film you can get tired of watching because there is
Mm.
so much going on in this film
Yes.
and there's so much in it that you'll be going, oh, I completely forgot about this, or
Yeah.
oh my
Or I
God, I've
never
never seen
noticed
that before.
that.
I've never
Yeah.
noticed the connection between this character and
Yeah.
this, and
Yeah.
where they say that and how this person looks at this person, and yeah, so it's one of those films that's always going to surprise you and shock you each time you watch it, and that's probably why we're doing this on this channel. With these are the types of movies you really can't get tired of, or you
Mm.
shouldn't really, because
It's
they
one of the
are
main. That's
that
probably the
good.
main qualifier, isn't it?
Yeah,
Qualification rather of.
I think it is.
But the funny thing is, by the time I actually saw the film, I'd
Mm,
already heard a lot about it.
mm,
I'd heard a lot of hype about it, and just this guy Quentin Tarantino. He's this new
mm,
big name in films, and he's this young whippersnapper.
yeah.
This thrusting young buck,
Hmm.
uh, and all this kind of thing. And frankly, by the time I actually got round to seeing this and Reservoir Dogs around the same
Mm,
time, even though it came out earlier,
yeah.
which I also missed. By the time I actually saw them, I was kind of sick of the sight of the guy and sick of the sound of his name.
Yeah, I mean, there
You know what I
was
mean? It's just
that's quite an interesting thing because when this was released, he'd be doing a lot of PR because after Reservoir Dogs exploded onto scene, everybody was Tarantino, Tarantino,
Yeah.
and he was trying to make himself as well. So, he was, just come out of working in video store rental places and trying to make a name for himself as a director. On some of the extras that I went through on that DVD, there was some stuff of what came out and reviews, movie reviews of Pulp Fiction at the time in 1990, 93, 94. And it was really quite interesting to hear that sort of like criticism and some pushback from mainstream Hollywood
Mm.
about Tarantino sort of like, kicking the door in, as it were. So it's
The
really quite
lunatics taking
interesting.
over the asylum kind of
Yeah,
thing,
it
which
was
which had
there. It
happened
was.
before.
When certain directors come onto the scene, it shifts the dynamic of Hollywood, and
Oh
some
yeah,
people were happy about it, and some people ruffled their feathers. So,
especially when the director in question is a fantastic self promoter. Whatever you think of Tarantino,
he's a good
you can't call
salesman.
him shy.
Yeah,
He's not afraid. He's not backward in
yeah,
coming forward and saying like, he's kind of like Muhammad Ali, I'm the greatest kind of thing. He's got a bit of that cockiness about him, hasn't he? Or
yeah,
I don't think he's ever really grown out of it, frankly. Although he hasn't made a film for a while, so we'll see what happens this time.
yeah,
He's got one coming out.
yeah. Because he's coming up to his 10th, and he said he was going to stop at 10, didn't he?
Yeah, he said he's going to only do direct 10
Yeah,
films and then quit.
yeah,
But he's dragging it out a bit, isn't he? I don't know.
exactly.
Let's talk about some of the major themes of the film because
Where do you want to
one
start?
well, I want to start with I will tell you a little story. It's not much of a story really, but
Mm,
a few years ago I was talking to I think I've told you this before, but for the benefit of our lovely audience,
hmm.
all four of them, hello.
Yeah,
A few years ago, all right, Dave. A few
yeah.
years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine and yours
Mm,
and of the channel about this film. In the course of our conversation, we were talking about Pulp Fiction generally, and I came up with a pithy one-line description that I'd
mm.
like us to bear in mind over the course. I'm doing it again. I'd like
Okay.
us to bear in mind over the course of our discussion, and it goes
Mm,
like this: Pulp Fiction is the greatest movie ever made that isn't about anything.
mm,
Now, that is
mm.
something I'm not saying that's kind of a thesis. That's not necessarily a
Yeah.
statement. It's just something to think about.
So I
Um,
raised my eyebrows because say the greatest movie, but then that second half of the sentence is actually quite interesting.
I mean, the film
So
is because the film is very well made. It's cleverly written. It's enormously
brilliantly
entertaining to
written,
watch.
amazingly written. I mean,
Yeah,
dialogue in it is incredible.
and it's great fun to watch.
Yeah.
But is it meaningful? The question is part question one.
Mm,
Question two, and we can answer all these together. We talk about all these together. Question two, is it meaningful? Is Tarantino's work in general a kind of a thumb nose to the very idea of meaning? Is it just entertainment? Is it just sort of revisiting old genres and making them into his own image?
mm.
And perhaps most importantly, how do we, if that is the case, how do we feel about it? Does a film or any work of art need to be about something to qualify as a work of art? Can it
No.
just be?
Mm,
But I mean, but most. And let's stick to films. Most
mm.
films, I think, do have quite an obvious. It's quite an obvious theme or something that the film is about.
Yeah.
Like oh,
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
plot.
I can't think
Plot,
of an example
really.
off the top of my head. Well, just like The Godfather, for example, is
Yeah.
it's about it's kind of a
It's the rise of a mafia boss.
yeah, but what's it? But that's the
Mm.
story. That's the plot. But
Okay.
but that's what's it actually about? It's about America. It's about
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it's this idea that the criminal underworld, when it gets to a certain, it works much the same way as government and society. It's kind
Yeah.
of a parallel society kind of thing. That
Yeah.
that kind of idea. It's like, I mean, that's just interpretation of the film.
Government
You
is
know,
just the mob in a nicer suit.
yeah, yes. But well, not necessarily a nicer one,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
depending
yeah.
on what you can
True.
afford and what your taste is.
Yeah.
But I think but in any case, I think with Pulp Fiction, there probably are. Well, I mean, I know there are things that I've decided that it's about because I'm going to talk about them in a minute.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things it's about is that it's kind of, in a way, it kind of has an anti-meaning. Like, I think it's meant to be about nothing except the pleasure of making and watching movies. Because
True.
Tarantino,
Yeah.
throughout the film, Tarantino is constantly reminding us that we're watching a movie. It's
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
it's very deliberate and very much like, oh, look at this cool thing. Look at this.
Yes.
I can give you a short list of examples
Yeah.
that I've come up
I
with.
mean, got one
Uh,
pop straight in my head, but go for yours.
yeah, go on, go on.
Well, I was going to say the driving scenes. Now, if you notice, most of the driving scenes are the old school car driving along with the background, the video background. So if you think of Bruce Willis in the cab,
Oh,
if
the
you think of
rear projection, rear
Tarantino,
projection.
yeah, So the reproduction.
That was my last example.
Okay, but that is a wonderful classic nod back to a really good nod back to classic Hollywood.
Yeah.
And there was one particular scene which I've made notes about, which I really love, is the scene where the story starts with John Travolta's character going off to pick up Uma Thurman for the kind of night out, because he's just gone to his drug dealer to buy some cocaine, heroin, or whatever it is that
Heroin,
he's
yeah.
using. Heroin.
It's definitely heroin.
It's definitely heroin. And then you see him, and
That's
this is
important.
because it was really, because this was one thing that the critics really didn't like, is when you saw him sort of like cooking up, and
Yeah, the
he's
close up.
sort of the close up of the
Yeah.
syringe and the blood, and then that is spliced straight into the old school driving with the video
Mm.
background in the car, and that's what
That contrast.
that
Yeah.
really sharp contrast. That's one I spotted that right straight away first time I watched it. I was like, ooh. So that was really sort of like, lighting my fuses even back
There's a
then.
couple of these with John Travolta character Vincent, because like
Mm,
when he's talking to Jules about his partner played by Samuel L. Jackson. We'll talk about the
yeah.
cast and the
Hmm.
characters
Yeah.
later on, but the way that they're introduced, actually, the opening
Mm,
credits start, the big title, the
yeah.
Pulp Fiction title kind of comes into the screen like I
Mm,
can't really see that,
yeah.
but with the music and everything,
Hmm.
and the music is the song Miser Lou is playing the kind of
Yeah.
surf rock thing. At a certain point, the song is
Mm,
playing, and then all of a sudden you hear like a radio static, like
yeah.
someone's changing a channel, changing
Yeah.
the
And it
dial,
is. They changed the channel, and yeah.
and it changes to Jungle Boogie by Kool and the Gang,
Mm, yeah.
and I think it's Kool and the Gang, and just as that happens, what credit comes up on screen? The music supervisor.
Supervisor. Yeah.
But when Jules and Vincent go to the apartment in the morning to do their work, like they have to go and see these guys and find get this briefcase. They're having this idle conversation about like foot massages and everything,
Mm,
and they're sort of and there's a bit when they're getting ready to actually go into the room. Jules
yeah.
literally says to Vincent, "Come on, let's get into character."
Character.
Like
Exactly. I
for
know.
them,
Yeah.
crime, their business, their work is
Yeah.
very much a performance.
Exactly.
So
And if you,
sorry, go
yeah,
on.
I was going to say another thing that a lot of people might not have made the connection with that is, if you notice, it's almost like the Tarantino costume set was just the black suits. And it was a very easy way of these hitmen or whatever to get into character, as it were, because it
Yeah,
was almost
the
it's
clothes
the
make us man
suit
sort of thing.
acts yeah the suit acts as like a costume in some ways. The
Yeah.
it's
Well, and it changes drastically later on for them, doesn't it? They change
exactly,
costumes
because
because of the
which is why
certain
that's
circumstances
so
of the
much of
plot.
a comical aspect of it. These hitmen, these gangsters getting into character
Mm.
to do the job that they need to do,
Which is something we all
using
do
these
when
black suits. Yeah,
we all
exactly.
perform, we all act, we
Mm,
all. I think it was Frankie Howard of all people who
mm.
said in an interview once. He said like, well, we're all actors. We all pretend to be.
Yeah,
Like if you wake up in the morning and you go to work and you don't feel very
yeah.
well, or you go
You
into
have
the
to put
mood,
a
people
front
say, "How
on.
you doing?" And you just say, "Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Oh,
fine."
yeah, fine
And then you're
today.
lying, you're acting, you're
Yeah.
pretending.
Hmm.
We all do it. Let's talk a little bit about the violence, because I think
Mm,
because Pulp Fiction and Tarantino's films in general, I think have a reputation for violence, which
mm.
I think is not undeserved, but at the same time, I don't think his films are really any more violent than a lot of other filmmakers.
Well,
Um,
I think, all right, I've got two arguments on that sort of
okay,
front of
okay.
that, because first off, I think it was violent when it came out. Remember us talking about how, Goodfellas, when
Mm,
Goodfellas came out, and we were talking about how that changed the game and violence and what bosses. And this is exactly the same. I think, when this came out, people weren't used to that level of violence, and it's changed Hollywood. Films became a bit more violent or played around with violence. And actually, I'm going to contradict myself here, but in some ways, I think Tarantino did a really good job in this movie of actually not showing you the
well,
violence.
this is
It's
the thing,
left your
isn't it?
imagination. I mean, let's take Bruce Willis's scene with the sword.
Yeah,
But
Ving
when you
Rhames. Yeah,
see the first slash of the sword, the guy's got his back to camera so you don't see. Then he
it's all in
turns
one shot,
round,
but he
yeah,
turns round,
and
and
then he
he's
turns
got the
around and he
thing already
sees
there to
the red mark right
make up.
across, and then as he steps past him, he's like, and then he sort of like does the sword behind the back. If you
Yeah.
notice, the camera shot drop comes up.
Well, it doesn't. I don't think it even comes up.
No,
It's
no.
never that low to
Well,
begin with.
as
But yeah, he
Bruce
stabs
steps
the guy in the
forwards and he stabs it,
somewhere.
you don't see it.
But I
And
mean,
this is,
I think though. I mean, no, you're right. You're absolutely
mm,
right. I think, however, one of the things about that is you can show violence can be very. The film shows violence. It doesn't
mm,
show it in every gore. It doesn't
mm,
literally show metal entering flesh,
yeah.
but
Hmm.
most violent films don't do that. I mean,
No,
it's actually
because I
quite
think they've
rare. It's mainly
learnt
sort of
it
horror films and
from
slasher
this.
movies and things
This
that do
this is
that.
what I'm saying. I think Pulp Fiction really sort of like created a new way of showing violence or portraying violence
I don't know.
without having to. I'm not saying it was the only one, but I think
I
it,
wouldn't even say it was the first. I think it was quite. I think it's quite a common technique actually. But I think if that is the case, it's probably because the film has such a reputation for violence, and
yeah,
actually when you watch
exactly.
it, it's
Yeah.
surprisingly not tame. It is violent, but it's not sort of.
Mm,
It's not. I think the problem. I think the reason the film has such a reputation for violence, which is perhaps not matching what you actually see in it, is
mm,
two things. First of all, as you say, it's kind of most of the time it's edited and shot in such and filmed in such a
mm,
way, such composed, the image is composed in such a way that you don't really see it. You just but it's left to the imagination, as you said.
mhm,
The other reason is I think it's about the way the tone of the violence scenes. Like
yeah.
sometimes it is quite nasty and kind of
Mm,
as because violence is nasty. I mean, if you're going to show it, if you're going to
mm.
make a film about violence, better make it better. I think. I
Well,
mean, from an ethical standpoint, I think it's better to make
yeah.
it look nasty than to make it look cool or
Well,
to
okay.
sanitize it. At least on a couple of occasions, the violence in the movie is kind of it's done in quite a flippant way. I mean, I'm thinking of
Yeah.
hang on a sec.
Hmm.
I'm thinking of
Yeah. I was just
when
about to say this.
when they shoot Marvin in the back of the car
I
in the
was
face
just about to bring that up. That was the
because
exact
it's kind
same
of
point.
it's
Yeah,
treated as a
it's
punchline.
it's almost comical,
It is comical.
and
It's
also when
absolutely comical.
it is comical, and also when it happens, the camera shot is on Vincent. It is on John Travolta's
Oh yeah,
character with the
you don't
gun
see
resting
yeah
over, and then the gun goes off. You don't even see Marvin. You just see red jam everywhere.
very tightly edited, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah, you don't yeah
exactly. The only time you
yeah
see Marvin's face from that is the boot scene where they just chuck the bag with their clothes in the boot before they go off
yeah you
and
do get a
dispose of
glimpse
it.
of
A
him sort of it's
tiny,
like
tiny shot of
yeah.
Marvin. It was like,
And
ugh.
actually, you've got to look for it because his face is sort of
Yeah,
up in the corner of the shot. And if you're not paying
exactly.
attention,
Yeah,
I didn't even see that till like the third or fourth
mm,
time I watched the film, probably. And then I was like,
yeah,
oh, I didn't see it.
mm,
Like that, like the sort of dummy with a hole in it.
exactly.
It's quite unpleasant.
And this is what I'm saying about the violence aspect of it is that it's there, but you're right, in certain aspects it's played on a comical strand. They pull on a
Yeah,
comical strand, but then
maybe not
they
as much as I
also kind
remember,
of
but it
it's
does. Yeah,
there, but it's not actually in your face. It is in your face, but it's not in your face because they're not actually showing you Marvin's head
it it sort of
bursting
tricks you
apart.
into like a lot of violent films. It tricks you into thinking you've seen something that you actually
Yeah,
haven't.
exactly. That's it.
And I only counted 5 instances of actual successful violence
Mm.
as opposed to the ever-present threat of violence
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
entire movie. Right
Hmm.
now, 2 of those happen off screen,
Yeah.
and one of the remaining 3 was an accident. We were just talking about. I think there
Mm.
are probably more violent scenes in your average Marvel movie,
Yeah.
or the
Exactly.
punching and kicking. Just because you don't see
Yeah.
blood, it's kind of all right,
Hmm.
apparently.
So
Which I don't agree with. But anyway.
yeah. I mean,
So I
you
mean that's
take
really all I've got to say about violence in Pulp Fiction and
yeah.
Tarantino films generally. I think I mean I remember like he was interviewed once by on Channel 4, and I'm sure this isn't the first interview where this has happened. He was interviewed by Krishnan Gurumurthy on Channel 4, and he said like he was sort of asking him,
Mm.
he's promoting his new movie, whatever it was, Django Unchained or whatever, and he was sort of asking him about violence in his movies, and Tarantino was like, he sort of basically refused to answer the question because, from his point of view, and I sort of understand his point of view, because from
Yeah.
his point of view, from Tarantino's point of view, he's like, well, look, I've been asked questions about violence for 20 years, and
Mm.
my position hasn't changed. So basically, I can't be bothered to run through
Yeah.
the arguments again.
I don't
Just go and
blame
watch
him, actually.
go and read one of my old interviews, or watch one of my old TV interviews, because it's all
Yeah.
there.
I mean, let's take the classic scene with where Brett gets shot where they're picking up the briefcase, the Bible
Yeah.
quote,
See,
and
for
because that says
25:17.
17. That is a build up, a build. You
Yeah,
know it's
suspense. Yeah.
coming, and I mean, brilliant portrayal and
Yeah.
absolutely wonderfully acted, and
I
it's
mean,
one of the
that's
most
the Oscar
quoted.
nomination right there, that speech.
Exactly. They didn't get it
Even though
because
they
they
didn't
lost
win.
it to fucking Forrest Gump. Um,
No, it was
yeah,
Ed Wood.
was
It
it?
was Martin Landau for Ed Wood, won Best Supporting Actor that year.
All right.
Blame
Sorry,
Bela
I'm thinking
Lugosi.
film. No, I
But Forrest
think
Gump
best
cleaned
film.
up in the other
Yeah,
categories, yeah.
exactly.
So
Anyway,
that's a better film as
the
well.
point I'm trying to make is that it was such a build up and a build up and build up. I mean, and when it comes to the actual violent act of Brett being shot, you don't see it. You
You
see
don't see it, and
them
it's almost,
shooting, and you get this kind of weird orangey glow, golden
yeah.
glow,
In the
which a
editing,
lot
the
of
sort of
people always
fade
like
across back
said,
and forth.
"Oh, is that
Yeah,
something to do with the what's in the case
yeah,
and
because that
all the
glows
rest of
orange.
it?"
Yeah.
But the thing is that
It's almost the actual shooting is almost an anticlimax because the speech is
yeah,
so, you would
exactly.
know my name is the Lord, and it's like
Lord,
that's the climax of that scene. Then the shooting
yeah,
is like, oh yeah, and then they shoot him. That's kind of almost an
exactly.
afterthought, isn't it? If Pulp Fiction has a primary theme, I mean, we've already said a couple, but I think another one would be nostalgia. In fact,
Mm,
I'll go you one further. I think Tarantino's entire career is an exercise in nostalgia, as I think we
hmm
mentioned earlier. But
Music. All I
oh
have to say
well,
is
I
his
mean,
music choices.
for a start, but I mean the whole. But
Yeah.
it's this film just feels like a period piece. Sometimes it
Mm.
feels like it's set in the 70s, sometimes in the
Yep.
90s,
Hmm.
sometimes it feels like it's set in the 50s, depending on what
Hmm.
music is playing. Depending on the song on the
Exactly.
radio. Is it Al Green or is it Dick Dale and his
Yeah.
Deltones or whatever they're called? It's almost like here's this film from the 1990s, which is being
Mm.
nostalgic for a period in the 1970s, which was
Hmm.
itself being nostalgic for the 1950s. Because in the
Yeah.
1970s, you had things like the Happy Days sitcom, which was set in the
Yeah.
50s. You had Grease,
Yeah.
set in the 50s, starring John Travolta.
Exactly. And
So
that was all. Yeah. And that was because
it's like a double nostalgia.
it is
It's
exactly.
like
And
it's
I
like
think.
And
I
it's
mean that.
reflected in the. I mean, you were talking about the structure of the plot earlier. It's reflected in the
Mm,
structure of the plot, the way time folds over on itself. The same
yes.
characters
Hmm.
reappear in different contexts. The same scenes are repeated from different perspectives. It's like he's commenting on his own film while he's making it.
Mm,
You know what I mean? What do you
yeah.
think about that double nostalgia idea?
I totally agree with you, actually. And even with Reservoir Dogs felt almost like out of timeline. When is it? Is it modern day? Is it sort of 70s? Is it? Um, it was, and yeah, I think he's always enjoyed playing with that because he knows that audiences love it. I mean, we're going through right now we're in the mid 2020s, we're getting revival for the 1990s, the nostalgia for the 1990s. In the
And I don't think the
1990s,
80s nostalgia thing has finished yet. I think
no,
it's kind of
probably there's a little bit
stagnated,
of
isn't it?
crossover. So
Yeah.
there's always this kind of like draw back to the good old days of your own childhood
Yeah,
or where things,
which
when
is what
you
you're really
were a
nostalgic
young
for, really.
adult and you didn't have the responsibilities of family, you didn't have responsibilities of work, you didn't have, you just went to work, earned some money, and you lived your life and had a lot of fun. And there's a strong
If you're lucky.
nostalgia, yeah, to that to go back to those days when everything seemed when everybody's rose
The
tinted
world was
glasses
better, but
were exactly,
yeah, the world was
and
better, except no, it wasn't. You
it
were
was
just younger
easier.
and happier, and
Yeah,
life was
you were
easier for
younger and
you.
happier. You had more energy.
Yeah.
You could do
Yes.
more.
Well, I don't know if I had more
But
energy back then. I was a bit
yeah,
lazy too, but yeah.
but I just think there's always going to be that area of nostalgia in every area of culture.
But what about
But I like the fact that yes, Tarantino plays with that, and
yeah.
he plays with it really beautiful with the choices of the music
Mm.
that he picks, even the scenes as well, because the scenes don't give away very much of time periods. It
No,
could
they
be
don't. Yeah.
there's that kind of slight ambiguity, so like when you see a hotel setup or anything like that, it could be anything within almost like the decade before, the decade after, and decade during. So there's that kind of, again, he leaves it kind of plays with that ambiguity of time frame.
And it comes through in the technique and the style of the film, visual style.
Mm,
I mean, this is something. I mean, you I'm sure will know more about this than I do, but the photography, you know, it has this kind of rich, warm,
Oh yeah,
nicotine
colours are
gold sort of color
beautiful.
palette.
Yeah.
But you know, at times the photography looks like a Douglas Sirk movie from the 50s. But even though it still has some of that 1970s sort of grit,
Yeah.
you know, the blacks are almost kind of bright, and the black hair looks almost
Mm.
blue in the light. It's
Exactly.
I
It's
looked up.
beautiful. I love it.
I don't know if this will mean anything to you. It's only mean
Mm.
anything to me, but I looked up what film stock they used.
Okay, yeah.
I assumed it was shot
Mm.
on film, but I mean it was sort of
Yeah.
35 mil Eastman
Hmm.
color. That
Right,
sounds about
okay.
right. Yeah, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, but I mean, what? I mean, it looks lovely. I know that, but I think in
Mm.
any case, you know, whatever version you watch, I think the film Pulp Fiction looks much more expensive than it is because
Mm.
it only cost, like, the
Yes.
budget was 8 million or something.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Which is, you know, I mean,
It,
for
it, it
one
was
I've ever seen,
far better shot than Reservoir
pretty.
Dogs. Far better shot.
Yes, yeah,
And yeah, it
yeah.
looked, a more polished production.
And it kind of,
Um,
and in a way, it kind of, you could argue that it kind of glorifies the distasteful subject matter. You know, again with the
yes.
reputation for violence. You know,
Mm.
maybe it's the sort of rich red of the blood when you do
Yeah.
see it, especially
Mm.
as it's a nice clean white shirt because it's more of his blood
Yep.
splashed on John Travolta.
Hmm.
That makes it kind of stick in the craw of the moral majority or whatever. You know.
Um,
Speaking of nice clean shirts, I just want to say, I mean, you know, I mean, you talked about the dress earlier, the outfit, the
mm.
costume that Jules and Vincent wear. You know, they dress like Reservoir Dogs, black suits, white shirts, black ties.
Yeah.
Um, you know, which kind of recalls the monochrome of 50s noir.
Mm.
But you know, again with the folding over of time periods, because one of them, you know, John Travolta's got sort of hippie length hair,
Yeah.
and Samuel L. Jackson's got a Jerry curl. They're both sort of
Yeah.
emblems of the 1970s, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Again, the text, its texture, its detail, sets,
Mm.
costumes, props. It's you can. We were
Everything
saying
is.
earlier
Yeah.
about repeated viewings. You can lose yourself in this movie and
Yeah.
notice things you hadn't seen before. You know, I mean, well, for example, the one that I picked up on this time, and I can't believe I've noticed before. I wonder if you've ever noticed this one.
Mm.
During the scene at Lance's house where where Mia's had her overdose and they were trying to,
Mm.
you know, and they're trying
Yeah.
to resuscitate her. I can't believe I
Mm.
never picked up on this before. In the
Yeah.
background of the shot, there's a little table, and on the top of the table is a Operation board game. So between this and, I mean, you know, the music of the film as
Mm.
well. I mean, between the Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, Quentin Tarantino pretty much single-handedly made it cool to buy soundtrack albums
Oh,
because,
definitely.
you
I
know,
mean
he he turned them into just
huge.
really great mixtapes,
That
didn't
was
he?
massive because yeah, as soon as and I was working in music stores in the
Mm,
mid 90s,
yeah,
and you just had soundtrack album after soundtrack album after sound. It was massive. It was huge. It
I've got
really
a few
just
over there, I'm sure
exploded.
still.
Exactly, and rightly so. And it was Tarantino that brought some of this to the forefront of
And
it. It
put
wasn't
like
the only
clips of
one, but
dialogue
yeah.
in on the album as
Oh,
well between the
exactly.
tracks. And
So yeah, I
you
mean,
couldn't basically in the second half of the 1990s you could not go to a house party without one of these albums being put on at some point. So we were talking earlier on about
mm,
you know how it's like an anthology. It's, you know, at first glance it's like an anthology of short stories, although you know
yeah,
they actually do fold into fold
hmm,
over on each other and interact with each other,
yeah,
intersect. You know, and some people, you know, some people appear as lead characters in their own
hmm,
stories, and then side characters in other people's, like Vincent.
yeah,
You see Vincent very, very early on when, in the opening scene, when
yeah,
Pumpkin and Honey Buddy are about to rob the diner, Tim Roth
mm,
and Amanda Plummer, they you see you're looking over Amanda. There's a shot of Amanda Plummer, and over her
mm,
shoulder you see Vincent walk into the toilet,
toilet, yeah,
because every time Vincent goes to the loo, you know,
mm,
something bad happens.
exactly.
If you ever see Vincent Baker go into the toilet,
Yeah,
run.
yeah, go
Uh,
away.
but so it's like it's almost like there are kind of like hierarchies, you know, in there's
Mm,
hierarchies within the story as well as, you
well,
know, from
exactly.
Veropa's point
Yeah,
of view. Like in any given scene, you sort of have to ask yourself who's in charge. Like
mm,
Jules and Vincent are kind of equal rank,
yeah,
both inferior to Marcellus and also kind of inferior to Winston Wolfe when he turns
hmm,
up at the end and sort of gets them
yeah,
out of the
hmm,
problems they're in. And look at Vincent and Mia in the diner scene
yeah,
as well. She kind of outranks him because she's
yeah.
the boss's wife,
Life, yeah,
and he's on his best behaviour. You know, he's
hmm,
not swearing much. He's not, you know, he's
yeah.
kind of like being, you know.
He's
And
being
then at
very
the end,
tolerant and yeah,
yeah, and
mm,
then at the very end, you know, the final scene of the movie, really, in the
mm,
diner,
yeah,
when Jules basically talks Pumpkin and Honey Bunny down for
yeah,
robbing the diner, and you know, just kind of like, you know, there's this sort of bit, you know, it's the, again with the suspense and the tension. We sort of like, we know who Samuel L. Jackson's character, we know who Jules is at this point.
Mm.
We've spent some time with him. We know he is a bad something that it says on his wallet. We know
Mm.
he really is that. So we're just thinking, okay, these two like small time robbers
Crooks.
are trying to
Yeah.
they're oh no, when they get to him, they're just going to be.
Mm.
And it doesn't actually work out like that,
Yeah. No,
but you know
exactly.
when again the suspense when is Pumpkin or Ringo as Jules calls him, when is he going to realise that he's met his match?
Yeah.
But what's interesting though is I think even though in the end really even the most powerful characters in the story they only really have like the illusion of control. You know, like the final
Yeah.
arbiter of the story is ultimately fate or
Mm.
chance or if you like God. Because
Hmm.
you know, like what you know, because what happens is at the end of the Gold Watch story with Bruce Willis, and you know, going
Yeah.
back to his flat to get the Gold Watch, even though the mob was
Mm.
after him.
Yeah.
You know, just when Butch finally thinks he's winning, he's driving
Yeah.
along, he's singing along to the radio. He's
Hmm.
got one over on the people who underestimated him because he actually
That's
said
it.
that to himself, doesn't he? Butch, they
Yeah.
underestimated you. Yeah, you showed them like
Yeah.
something like that. And then complete chance, he bumps into Marcellus crossing the road while he's waiting for
Yep.
the lights, like in
Exactly.
Psycho when Janet Leigh is parked
Yeah.
at the lights and her boss walks
Again,
across.
nod
Yeah,
to classic cinema.
and then
Again, I love that.
right,
It
you're
was
watching a movie, you're
beautiful.
watching a movie.
Yeah.
And then they both try to kill each other. They
Yeah.
both fail, and then they just walk into the
Hmm.
wrong pawn shop,
Exactly.
and then
That's
they
it.
get in trouble with the gimp downstairs. And
Hmm.
but at the end, you know, they like no, still spoiler alert.
Mm.
At the end, they end up resolving their differences as a result of that
Yeah.
happy accident of walking into the wrong. I mean, it wasn't that happy for
Oh,
Marcellus.
it's that element of chance.
Yes,
Yeah.
but chance is the final
Mm.
boss in the movie.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah. So like, if we
Um,
give in to chance,
mhm.
do we win by not trying to win anymore?
Yeah. You
What
know,
do you think about that?
there's a lot to be said about serendipity. That
Yeah,
things will happen, and then, people call it fate and whatever you want to
kismet
call
or
it, but
whatever. Yeah.
it's something you shouldn't really ignore. And I think that's the nice thing that Tarantino plays with as well.
In a way, I suppose that serendipity, that fate, is just the imagination of the writer. The writer,
Yeah.
the creator, the director, the
Hmm.
storyteller, is God.
Yeah.
Ultimately, is in charge.
Jules ends up having a much stronger
Yes,
connection with
yes,
serendipity, fate, whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
And
He
Jules,
pays. He's the one who pays attention to it. He's the one
he
who's
pays attention to it way more than
he
anybody
realizes
else.
more than the others do. Yeah, he's more
Exactly,
attuned to
and
that
to a point
frequency.
where it's just gonna change that character's life, or
Mm.
outgoing
And
for
the lives of those
the
around him.
foreseeable.
Let's talk about a bit about the dialogue.
Hmm.
You know, which is great
Strong
dialogue,
input,
memorable
yeah,
dialogue, repeated to
beautiful
each other,
dialogue, yeah.
ad nauseam by a whole generation of burgeoning movie buffs like us.
Hmm.
Now, we're not going to sit here and recite lines all night, are we, Alan?
No,
But we
because
absolutely
I'm
could if we
terrible
wanted
at it anyway. Um,
to. You get it wrong,
um,
right? Okay, I'll probably get it
but
wrong as well.
yeah, I mean, anybody who knows this movie will have certain aspects of dialogue that they adore and love. I mean, for
Certain lines,
me,
yeah,
I
yeah,
love the whole dialogue of the foot massage
yeah.
scene. That whole run is just wonderful, and it's
That whole
beautiful. It's very
conversation,
well
yeah,
written.
the burgers and everything,
Um,
yeah.
but about dialogue anyway, because obviously there's a lot of dialogue in this movie that's got absolutely nothing to do with the plot whatsoever. It's just
Yeah,
that kind of background chit chat of just characters, just people of their daily lives. And it's like when Vincent comes back to the States because he's been in Amsterdam for 3 years,
and
and
Paris,
he
yeah.
talks about the difference between Europe and America, and everybody loves that. And I mean, even for me, growing up, I from the first time I started saw that scene, I started putting mayonnaise on my chips, and I still do to this day. You have a deeper and a greater connection to the characters, even though they're kind of the type of people you would never want to associate with, but you do find them make those kind of meaningful connections.
Because they are, I mean, the film never lets you forget that they are very dangerous
They're very
criminals
dangerous, but
who
they're
might kill
people.
you if they
They're
had to.
people just
But they're
like you
also
at the
human
end of the day.
beings, and
Yeah.
not necessarily in the sense of, oh, so let's go easy on them because they're human beings. It's like, no, they're still doing horrible things,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
they are also people. It's
Yeah.
and the dialogue reflects that because a lot of it is very darkly funny. It has a sort of dark
Yeah.
sense of humor, the kind
Yeah.
of humor that appeals to criminals and, for that
Hmm.
matter, cops and working class people generally. It's like what we used to call banter before
Hmm.
that term started getting used as cover for hate speech.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of hate speech,
Mm.
I know you had
There
something you
is.
wanted. There
Yeah, I
is
do.
quite a lot of.
Um,
I mean, not. I mean,
this. Well, this.
it's not
I'm not.
littered, but there's a fair few times where you go, "Oh, a white person just said, like, oh, back in the '90s, back in the old days, it was still all right." No, it
No,
wasn't.
no, I
It wasn't
don't.
acceptable then
Yeah, it
either.
wasn't.
No, but
No,
it
it
wasn't
wasn't
acceptable. It
acceptable
wasn't. I don't think it
then.
was generally considered acceptable then either.
No,
I think it
no, I
was. I think
agree.
it was a deliberate attempt to shock and
It
a
was.
provocation.
It was. It
For
was
whatever
part.
reason he did it, and I don't think his
I think
reasons are
in
really
some ways
very good. But
it was a use of language violence. If you know where we're talking about how he used violence to kind of portray or to grab your attention, he's kind of doing the same thing with
well, it's just
dialogue and
again, it's
words.
a provocation. It's
Yeah,
an attempt to shock
that's
the
it.
audience. But also, amongst all the sort of swearing and racial slurs and MF
Hmm.
this and MF that, funny enough, though, in amongst all that stuff, there are some interesting little expressions and idioms that sound sort of weirdly
Mm.
old-fashioned. Maybe it's the nostalgia thing again. Like
Yeah.
when Mia says to Vincent over the intercom, she says like, "I'll be down in two shakes of a
Shakes of a
lamb's
lamb's
tail."
tail.
My nan
Yeah.
used to say that,
Yeah,
and she
exactly.
was born in 1912s.
But we were still using them then more than we
I
use
wasn't,
them now.
I wasn't. I recognised it, but I wasn't using
Mm.
it. I wasn't
Yeah.
saying things like two shakes of a lamb's tail in
No. I mean,
1994.
I
I
like the way
recognised
that,
it because my nan
yeah,
used to say it, but or my
okay.
mum or whatever when I
But
was
there was
little.
other areas. It's same scene actually where, she's trying to tell Vincent where the intercom is so he can tell her
Oh
where
yeah,
how to
warmer,
tell
warmer,
warmer.
cold,
Disco.
disco.
Again, the scene towards the end where Vincent and Ringo are having that standoff in the restaurant,
Yeah,
and he's trying to get Liana to calm down, and she
yeah,
says, "What is Fonzie like? Fonzie's cool. We're
yeah,
gonna be cool." Again, it's that
yeah,
throwback again of
yeah.
these kind
Fonzie,
of
Happy Days. Yeah.
happy
Oh
days.
yeah, I didn't make that connection. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
exactly. That's
literally make
right.
a
It
Happy
was.
Days
Yeah,
reference. I forgot about that.
exactly.
Yeah. But I think I mean, leaving aside the dialogue, I mean,
Mm.
I think one thing that I mean, Quentin Tarantino is famous for his dialogue, of course. It's
Yes.
one of the things he's most
Yeah.
famous
On
for.
all his movies, its
Yeah,
dialogue is
yeah.
incredible.
He's known for dialogue, violence, fairly
That's,
or otherwise, and he's known for
yeah.
taking old mutton and dressing it up as new lamb
Yeah.
with a lamb's tail.
and playing
But
with editing as well is the quick shot.
I think the one thing that Tarantino is best at, actually,
Mm.
more even than all those things we've mentioned, is telling a great Shaggy Dog story. He just piles incident upon incident, twist upon twist, development upon development, until you have absolutely no idea where he's going with it. He's like a bloke
Exactly,
down
I
the
love
pub.
it.
He's
Yeah.
like a bloke down the pub.
Yeah.
Like the bloke down the pub he plays in what is it,
Hmm.
Desperado,
Yeah.
making up endless reams of bullshit to entertain the other drinkers, and he's brilliant at that.
Hmm.
I really do think he's brilliant at that.
Yeah.
And there's not many filmmakers. I can't think of too many filmmakers that who can take you down such an unpredictable road. Where,
Mm.
maybe Lars von Trier, maybe Yorgos Lanthimos, maybe a handful of others.
Mm.
I would challenge anyone to watch one of their films or one of Tarantino's films for the first time and say, "Oh
Mm.
yeah, I knew it was going to end like that."
Yeah, exactly.
No, no way,
Yeah.
no way. You
Yeah,
had no
you
idea it was
can't.
going to end like
No,
that. You had
exactly.
no idea. Let's talk
Mm.
about the cast.
Okay.
It's an interesting combination.
Mm.
You've got indie film newcomers like Uma
Yeah.
Thurman and Amanda Plummer and Maria de Medeiros, and he's
Yes.
giving them a break, I guess, in a
Yeah.
bigger stage. People he worked with before in his previous film. You got
But
Harvey Keitel and Tim
Cartel
Roth
are
and
brilliant
Steve
again, and
Buscemi.
he wanted to bring these old
Yeah.
actors back into the fold. John Travolta as well, brilliant to
Well,
see
this
him
is it.
back. Yeah.
People who were everywhere in the 1980s, like Rosanna
Yeah.
Arquette and Eric Stoltz,
Hmm.
and big stars who'd fallen on hard times, like Travolta
Hmm.
and Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
I mean, and they he could afford them on an $8 million budget because
Hmm.
they sort of had a hit for a few years. So first of all, let's talk about Vincent Vega.
Okay.
He and played by John Travolta. He
That's
is
right. Yeah.
one with the long hair
Hmm.
and the heroin addiction. He's like he and his partner Jules. They're kind of like foot soldiers in this criminal
Yeah. Hmm.
underworld, aren't they? They're kind of like the film's idea of blue collar everymen.
Yeah.
And as I say, he's a world class heroin addict, and yet it just simply seems to be part of who he is, doesn't it? You know, it's like maybe that's even what makes him so laid back despite his high octane profession. Again, you got that
Yeah.
contrast. You sort of look at him
Apart from one,
shuffling around, you know, like
yeah,
just like, you know, barely awake most of the time, and then but then he pulls a gun. And it's like, oh, that's why he's doing that job. You know?
yeah.
It's suddenly, you know, it's just.
But
it all just sort of
he's
comes
a very
together.
interesting character, you know, guy with a very, very short fuse. You know, any bit of
Well, that's the thing, though. It's
riling
like
up.
it
Yeah,
doesn't
it
come
comes
out in a
across as really chilled
he
and
doesn't
laid
shout. He
back.
doesn't shout and
Yeah,
get angry. He just sort of
but
gets
then
annoyed
it gets
by,
riled up really easily.
well, yeah,
And yeah,
by
it
people
can't.
not
Yeah,
respecting him, or, you know, not all people barking orders
exactly.
at him, or whatever it is his problem is. You know, like Marty McFly in the second Back to the Future film, like all of a sudden he doesn't like being called chicken. It's like
Yeah,
that. You know, John Travolta's like thing is, I just don't like barking orders. People barking orders at me. That's all it is.
yeah,
Don't look at me like that. I can feel your look. And you know, although even through that you know, narcotic fog during the diner scene, he does some Olympic level flirting with Uma Thurman.
I know.
But again, he sort of underplays it so much that you're sort
I
of deliciously
know.
unsure whether he's even interested until he has that conversation in her bathroom with himself in the mirror. You know,
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah.
this is a moral test of oneself, or whatever it is. You know? So, what about Jules Winfield then, played by Samuel L. Jackson? A
Actually,
truly
yeah.
star-making performance, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, it really
Charismatic, smart,
brought
funny,
him to
and
the scene.
dangerous.
Yeah, brought him to the forefront in the eyes of Hollywood.
And he'd been around for ages. He'd been,
He
you know,
had,
he'd
yeah,
been
done
making
quite a
movies
lot
for
of
about 20
stuff.
years at that point, I
Yeah.
think. But he'd never had the big break, you know.
No.
And again, you watch older films now that he did before Pulp Fiction, and you know, you sort of, oh shit, it's Samuel L. Jackson. I forgot
Yes,
he was
sir.
in.
Yeah.
I forgot he was in Goodfellas. I forgot he
Yes.
was in Jurassic Park. I forgot he was in Coming
Exactly.
to America.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember him in Coming to America? He plays the guy who tries to rob the burger joint. You know, where
Really?
Prince Akeem. Yeah,
All right.
you know the bit where Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, they're working at the burger place, you know, in Queens, and the guy comes in with a shotgun and, you know, starts
All right.
tearing up the place. That's Samuel L. Jackson. I tell you what, I
Yeah.
watched that movie again recently, and I tell you what, he walks in and changes the whole tone of the movie just by walking in. The intensity, those eyes, those
Cool.
Samuel L. Jackson's got those incredible eyes, isn't he? Like, I can't do it, but it's just really intense gaze that he's got, you know, just absolutely terrifying. I feel like Tarantino must have watched Coming to America and just thought, you know, when I start making movies, I'm gonna work with that guy. Bible passage that he does, but you know, listen to his delivery though, because we hear it a couple of times, don't we? In the first time he says it, it's totally badass, just the cold-blooded shit he says.
And then
before,
in the restaurant later, it's calmer.
Totally
He
different. He
knows
says it
inside and out.
he says it in a monotone, like
Yeah,
flat as a
it's
pancake.
like just flat, just to kind of get the information out.
He really has changed, perhaps more
yeah.
than even he realizes. Because we were saying earlier, you know, he's perhaps the only character who taps into this idea of fate being the thing that's really in control, and you know, giving himself over to that, you know, giving himself up to that, and you know, and chronologically,
True. Yeah.
because the final scene in the movie, you know, isn't the final part of the story.
It's not
in
the
terms of
first
actual internal
no.
chronology.
It's the middle part,
It's the
which
middle
is
part.
a bit weird. Yeah.
It's about halfway through, yeah, and
Yeah.
and chronologically, after that diner scene,
Yeah.
Jules never turns up again. He
No.
must have gone off and done what he said.
He's
off
gone.
and-
He's gone. Exactly. So
And then
everything
Vincent
else
is
to
on
do
his
with
own.
Bruce Willis onwards, you know, with
Yeah,
the character
the
of Bruce
Gold Watch,
Willis,
all of that is
Jules
afterwards,
has
yeah.
gone.
And after that, Vincent's on his own, and soon enough that gets him killed because nobody was watching
Yeah.
his back in Butch's apartment when he goes to the loo.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure about Jules. I mean, you know, if Pulp Fiction really isn't about anything, then Samuel L. Jackson never got the memo. Because if any one character gives it meaning, it's him.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, Mia Wallace, played by Uma Thurman. She's the gangster's mole. She's the boss's wife.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting because up till now, I think Uma Thurman had only really done she played like naive virginal waifs because she was quite young. She was only, I think, she was 23 when they filmed it. She was very
Exactly.
young. And she'd already been making movies for a few years. She'd done like Dangerous Liaisons and Baron Munchausen and stuff like that. So Tarantino goes and casts her completely against type as a tough, witty, streetwise gangster's mole.
Yeah.
Which is a big ask, you know, but she grabs the part with both hands, Mrs.
Oh, exactly.
But interestingly, when she makes that,
Go on.
when she makes that life-threatening mistake,
Yeah. Of thinking heroin
you know,
is cocaine.
because Vincent keeps his drugs in the wrong packages.
Yeah.
You know, you see this sort of rotten vulnerability in her as well,
exactly, yeah.
which wouldn't work if you cast
Well-
if you'd cast an older actress, I think.
Yeah, probably.
because she realised that she was maybe sort of playing dress up with the older kids, you know. And she even sings along to that song, "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon." She sings
Yeah,
along to that. So
yeah. It's really interesting, and I do enjoy that whole scene, that whole chapter.
the diner.
Um, the diner.
Oh, what a
Again,
great set, by
lovely
the
little
way.
nod, lovely nod to again what we were going back to quite a while ago with the don't be a square, Daddy-O. But she
Yeah,
actually draws a rectangle, which is quite odd. But yeah, with Uma Thurman's character, it's really quite interesting that yeah, she's got this very strong persona because she's the boss's wife.
mm.
So she has to come across as this kind of strong, beautiful woman. But then obviously towards the end of that particular chapter, after she's had the adrenaline shot in her chest, and
We've seen her at her most vulnerable.
we've seen her at a very, very most vulnerable, but she still holds that really quite interesting where they come back to the house and then she tells Vincent that Fox Force 5 joke from the pilot
Yeah.
TV series she was in, and she
Well,
shows
that's
again
a
a,
vulnerability again.
a greater vulnerability, and again, yeah,
Trust.
she holds that
They have
really well.
trust.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so Butch Coolidge, played by
Hmm.
Bruce Willis, the
Yeah.
pug boxer, or pug, is that the right
Hmm.
word? I don't know. And it's such a cliche, isn't it? The boxer who's told to throw
Yeah,
the fight and refuses to throw the
exactly.
fight. All that is, but it's done very well, of course, like so
It's
much
it's
of it.
so well done, and I love that beginning scene where you don't even see um Marcellus. She's just got the back shot of him and then just
And
Willis's
the
face,
camera
and
just
you
stays
go,
on Bruce
yeah,
Willis's
it just
stone
stays on
face.
Bruce
Yeah,
Willis,
just
and
like,
you can see that he's writhing. He just wants to knock him out, and he's just like,
well, it's
and
very
he's
subtle though, isn't it? It's
it
very, it's just
is.
there's sort of dislike, disdain in his face without actually. Do I really have to deal with this scumbag?
Exactly. And everything he knows that Marcellus is saying, he knows is true. So it's like saying, what have you got?
Yeah,
Two more fights left in
that's
you.
pride with
That's
you.
pride stinging me.
Yeah,
And he knows all of this stuff and he just doesn't want to accept it.
and he doesn't
And
want to hear it
again,
from this guy either.
yeah, and that
Yeah,
whole bit with the money when he like, holds the envelope out with the money and then Bruce
oh, and he
sort
sort
of
of
goes
squeezes
for
it
it and
back.
just
And,
holds
yeah,
it and there's that tension.
he's
Brilliant.
treating him like a
So
child, isn't he? He's sort
yeah,
of like
oh exactly.
Marcellus is treating Butch
Yeah.
like a child. Yeah,
Exactly. It's just so
underestimating him.
I have so much dominance over you because he knows that he doesn't want to listen to this shit, and he's saying it anyway because it's true. But yeah, he just knows that Bruce's character just doesn't want to take it, and
And
yeah,
Butch, and Butch, he's the main character of the Gold Watch sequence, of
yeah,
course.
hmm
But he's one tough, mean,
mm,
actually quite dislikable person, isn't he?
yes,
He's like he's a bit of an asshole,
yeah,
basically. He's
exactly. I
kind of
mean,
arrogant
take
and kind of
yeah, take this later scenes when he's
obnoxious.
with his girlfriend in the hotel apartment after the fight when he gets back and he's having the shower.
That's where you see that other side to him. But when he's on
Yeah,
the
he's
phone,
like just
like he's gobbing on
horrible
the
and
floor, and like,
mean
yeah,
and
brother, we don't gonna do all
yeah,
this kind of thing. He's like he's an asshole.
exactly.
And I always admire an actor who's not afraid to be disliked. I've probably mentioned this on the
Mm.
channel before, and Bruce Willis really
But
goes for
then
that here.
what's quite interesting about that is where does the character gets redeemed?
Yes,
When
well, yeah,
he escapes from the dungeon bit with the gimp,
yeah, but but
and then
but
he
we see
goes
that
upstairs.
relationship. But as you said before that, we see the relationship with his girlfriend, who's
Yeah.
much more sort of innocent. And I mean, no,
Hmm.
there's a toughness about her as well, sure, but she
Mm.
stands up to him. She doesn't just. But at the same
Yeah.
time, there's a real love and attraction and affection between them
Hmm.
that they sell that the two actors sell very well. They've got real chemistry.
Mm.
Even though you look at them and you think, what the hell would these two see in each other? Would a guy like that, tough guy like that, go for a sort of little flibbertish a bit like her, or would a
Yeah.
sort of innocent girl like her go for this nasty, smelly? No, apparently she does, and apparently he does. So
Yes. Yeah.
okay, fair enough, no
Hmm.
judgment. And Butch shares his fate with Marcellus.
Yeah.
The big
Hmm.
boss, the
Yeah.
big man,
Hmm.
played by Ving Rhames, who was
Yeah.
not an unknown, but he wasn't well known when he made
No,
the
exactly. He
career.
wasn't. Yeah.
But and it's funny because we don't see his face. We only see him from
No.
behind, don't we?
Hmm.
Until like I think the third time, his
I,
third
th- I
scene or
think
something.
I think that's very much done on purpose to kind of create this kind of illusion,
Mystique, yeah.
mystique, and then again you see his face again more towards the end
And he's sort
when
you
obviously he's
almost
talking about the wolf.
you almost expect him to sort of be played by like a big name actor because when you don't see him properly, it's like Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now, probably because the bald
Yeah.
head,
Hmm.
but you sort of see him just in shadow or from behind, from a certain angle. You can't see his face properly. You sort of think, oh, this is gonna be a big name actor playing this role,
Yeah.
and then you see him, and it's like Ving Rhames, who at the time wasn't well known. So it's just no, he's just a really good. He's just absolutely right for the part.
Mm.
And he's got this lovely. He's got that quiet menace. You know, he doesn't have to shout, and it's a couple of little bits where he says, you know, like where he sort of when he sees Butch in the car, he's like, I'm not going to say it. That's the only time he's animated.
Yeah.
The rest of the time he's got this low,
but for good reason,
softly spoken,
for
quiet
very
menace.
good reason why he kind of broke, you know, sort of like swore at that point when he sees him.
Yeah. It's like
I think
number
any
one,
of us
you
would.
cheeky sob being out and about. Number
Exactly.
two, I can't believe my luck. I bumped it. I found you.
Yeah,
you know, like,
exactly.
But it makes a nice contrast, doesn't he? You've got like Samuel L. Jackson is sort of sweary verbosity, and you've got like John Travolta's bratish whining, and then you've got like Ving Rhames is their boss because he's got like,
exactly.
you see why he's the boss because he's just quietly, okay, don't sweat it, Jules. I'm on
exactly. Okay,
I'm
going to send the wolf. Yeah, and again,
I'm going to send the wolf. Who's the next character I want to talk about?
Okay,
I think Winston Wolfe, Harvey Keitel, he's maybe the coolest character in the film.
Yes,
and that's saying something.
Yeah, exactly. But rightly so because he pulls it off brilliantly, and there's so many tiny little things. Or he does like I love that little bit with the coffee. Because obviously at the beginning of that scene where they're talking about the coffee, oh, hey, Jules, some gourmet shit. I don't need to you tell me what the gourmet shit. I know. And then Winston just goes, takes a sip of the coffee and goes,
yeah, that's it.
That's it.
He's got to say.
All he
does.
He's
efficient. He's a model of efficiency. That's his thing. That's his character. He never overstates anything.
Exactly.
He talks fast, he thinks fast.
He acts fast.
And I would love to be that in control in any given situation. We're talking about control, the illusion of control. But he's very meticulous. He touches. I don't know if he touches everything with a cloth, but I think he was touching. What was it? The phone when he's on the phone in Jimmy's bedroom, and he's he's holding the phone with his hanky, and he puts the phone down. And he sort of like wipes and puts it away. Like, I'm thinking like so he doesn't want to leave his fingerprints anywhere. Like he doesn't all that little details like that I really like. But you wanted to talk about. I mean, it's a small part. It's only one
tiny
scene,
part, but what a part! Christopher Walker.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Walken, Captain Coons.
Oh god!
The guy who brings the gold watch to Butch as a little boy, but in a flashback, which is the earliest chronologically for the beginning of the film. I think Christopher Walken's entire reputation for weird pauses rests on this movie. Discuss. I can't do a Christopher Walken impression. I wish I could because it's one of those ones everyone thinks they can do. And I can't.
But you can't. Nobody can but him. Yeah.
And he really is inimitable.
He's. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's kind of because he's been around for a while? He had an Oscar nomination.
Oh yeah,
an Oscar before that. He was a famous actor, but
he's a very famous actor.
But he was kind of like his career really had a resurgence after that. You know, if it needed it, it probably didn't.
I guess it's just. I mean, the pace of his delivery anyway. And I don't think. I think it was so perfectly cast. I can't think of anyone else who could play that character better than Christopher Walken does.
And he's always got that. He always seems to be on the verge of cracking up, doesn't he? Like
exactly. He always has.
It's almost like is it supposed to be funny? I'm not sure. Yeah. Like and also like there's that bit I noticed, and again I think I may have noticed this before, but there's a bit where he pauses for so long that just momentarily I thought, has he forgotten his line? He goes like, this watch, and then it's like he suddenly remembers the line, and then he finishes it. It's like it's like no. I'm sort of imagining Tarantino behind the camera saying like, "Oh, that's great, what a great pause," and Christopher Walken's like, "Oh yeah, thanks."
Yeah.
I don't know. He's that good an actor.
I
can't tell.
Know if if it's for real or he just did. What? Where am I going?
Yeah. Am I having chips for dinner tonight?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I am.
Yeah.
This watch. Well, the last character I was going to mention was Jimmy. You know, the guy in the house that played by Quentin Tarantino, and I think the best thing I can say about that is, you know, Quentin Tarantino is one of the few directors who give Quentin Tarantino an acting role.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's all I got on cast. Is
Yeah.
finish off on a mean thing. I shouldn't say that. That's if you can't say anything nice.
I'll tell you, there was one little thing that always bugged me.
Okay.
What was the things that bugged you about this
Well, that
film?
bugged me, but there are little details that again, as we said before, I think you said before, it's one of those movies you rewatch it every time
Yeah,
you rewatch it.
exactly.
You see
So
something
this
you
is
noticed,
I've
something you
got
hadn't
one
noticed
thing that's
before.
always bugged me from the
Yeah, go.
time I first watched it, and even recently. I'm like
I wonder if
that
it's one
just
of the ones
annoys
I've
me.
got.
Okay, my one is the Bruce Willis the Butch scene when he goes back to get his watch,
Yep.
shoots
Hey,
Vincent.
yeah, the bubble the bubble. Yep.
Sorry. Okay, look, all of these videos, I think we just need to have that
I
sort of like
know, but
stuck in the
I
top
try and.
corner of the screen.
I couldn't
Because,
care less about spoilers.
all
Plot isn't
right,
that important to me,
okay,
but
all
a
right,
lot of people do.
yeah,
So I'm trying
okay,
to.
fair enough.
We should at
So,
least show it.
my bad
That's all right.
for
That's all right.
everybody. Okay, but
Somebody
yeah,
shoots something.
someone shoots someone. Okay,
No, sorry, you can say it now. I've got the thing up.
okay then. But basically, my bugbear is the smoke alarm. Smoke alarm goes off with the Pop Tarts and the gun. So when the Pop Tarts come up and he fires, the smoke alarm goes off. He doesn't turn the fucking smoke alarm off. He leaves it and he leaves the building, and you can still hear the smoke alarm
Yeah, here
going
as he
off.
walks away. Yeah,
And that's going to draw attention to
yeah.
what's happened. Now I
Yeah,
know
someone's going to investigate. Yeah.
someone's going to investigate. Now, for me, that always got me, and I haven't been able to
Why did you do
justify it.
that?
Why did it? Because
Yeah.
he's wiping the prints off his gun. He's like, right, is there anything else I can?
I guess.
Should I just
he's
leave
careful
it?
about other things. Yeah.
Exactly. So why the
So
hell
why
wouldn't
that?
you just push the button and turn the smoke
Doesn't
alarm
matter
off?
about prints on that because you would have pressed it
Yeah,
before anyway. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's just one of my and
Fair enough.
I,
I mean,
so are
I
there
could.
any things like that? Something in the movie, the
I'm
dialogue,
I'm
someone
gonna,
said something
I'm
wrong.
I'm gonna have a little go. I'm gonna have a
Go
little
on
go
then.
at fan wanking that one for you. I'm gonna
Okay then.
say, I'm just gonna say this. Butch is at a point now. At in that moment, he's had this he's in the throes of this realization, and it's a big realization for him. We can't really see it on his face because Bruce Willis plays the character so low key, so
Yeah.
contained. But because that's who the character is. But I feel like in that moment he's feeling like all powerful. Like I've just got away with
yeah.
something fantastic.
True.
Sod the bloody smoke alarm. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe he just didn't notice. Now that is fan wanking of the highest order. That is just like or a lamp shading or whatever.
I mean, I did think of those things myself, but
Yeah.
even still to this day, I watch
But it
it
still
and
it still bugs you.
bugs
Yeah,
me. I was
fair
like,
enough.
no,
Yeah.
turn the thing off. You wipe the prints off your gun. Just
Yeah, why not that as well? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
you do
and
that,
still-
but you don't do that.
He
No.
still gets away with it.
Yeah, I know he gets away with it, but
Well, that makes it worse, doesn't it? Because he
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
away with it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that could be a plot. That could be a dangling plot thread. That sir, we noticed the smoke alarm in your apartment. We're gonna go over and I don't know what voice I'm doing here or who I'm supposed to be. A cop, maybe. I don't know. Okay, I've got. It's not something that bugs me, but it's something I noticed, and I've noticed it many times. Is the first scene with Pumpkin and Honey Bunny.
Oh, the dialogue
getting ready
bit.
to rob the thing.
Yeah,
You know what it is,
thing.
don't you? And
Yes.
she says the line at the end.
yeah,
I'm gonna execute every
last
melon
melon
farming last one of you.
Who?
And
Any
then
of
when it
you
comes back, when we see
effing-
the scene again later, it's
Yeah.
the dialogue is different. Every
Ever so slightly
say
different.
every last one of you melon farmers.
yeah.
Now, is it is that the unreliable narration of memory and perspective, the different
Yeah,
character
I
in the
think-
scene,
I
remembering how
think
it
it
happens slightly
is.
differently,
Yeah,
or is it just
Because
a better take?
it's actually it's the same dialogue, just done ever so slightly different.
Yeah.
And
So it's just a different take, probably,
Yeah,
and they just thought,
and-
well, it's
and
got
I
to carry
noticed
on
that,
because the camera
yeah.
then follows her over there, and then it...
exactly. And I know that each time,
Well, it's a
even
different
to the-
camera angle anyway, isn't it?
it's a
So it
different
would be a
camera
different take,
angle,
yeah.
and you know it's different. And yeah, it got me right from the first time I watched it. I clocked it, and also what's
too.
really annoying me is every time I listen to the soundtrack, because that's on the soundtrack, and then you
Oh,
think
the soundtrack
yeah, but-
album.
yeah, on the
On the
soundtrack
album, yeah.
album. Yeah, that it starts off with that as the movie starts off, but of course then
Makes sense.
because I've heard it, I know in the movie there's another line that's slightly different. Even when I listen to the soundtrack, it annoys me.
You're being reminded of it once
I'm getting
again.
reminded of it. Yeah, so that's
I think.
how nerdy
I mean, I
we
think
are,
we're
sorry.
probably. We could make up. Some sort of highfalutin sort of excuse for it, but it probably is just it's probably like that Lindsay Anderson story about If, the movie If, where the film is like half of it, or some scenes are shot in black and white and some are shot in color, and like someone interviewed the director after it came out, and Lindsay Anderson, and they said like, oh, why are some of the scenes in color and some of the scenes in black and white and all this? He said, well, about halfway through the shoot we ran out of color film. Now, I don't know if that's, and of course films are shot out of sequence, so no, I don't know if that story is true, but I really hope it is.
Yes, exactly.
Because I love it. The other thing, it's not really an inconsistency or a problem, but it's a theory, a fan theory about the plaster on Marcellus's neck.
Yeah,
is that where they cut out his soul and put it in the briefcase, and that's what's in the briefcase? Because what's in the briefcase nobody knows, and I'm sure Tarantino won't tell anyone. He probably doesn't care. No one cares.
I've always just thought it was bars of gold. So
I mean, yeah, but it's such a mundane answer, isn't it? It's got to be something more interesting than that, because the way everyone reacts
yes and no.
It's not just yes like is that what I think it is. I mean, I suppose it could be that. It could be
exactly
that. Of course it could.
Yeah,
there's no reason it couldn't be that, but it's
exactly.
Just,
but
it seems like a boring
in essence,
answer.
It is. I know it sounds like a boring answer, but actually think about it.
I wouldn't mind that a boring
exactly.
bar of gold or two. But
if you were to open up a briefcase, you're normally thinking to see like bundles of cash or loads of cocaine, or you wouldn't actually expect. Yeah, you wouldn't actually expect to see bollards of gold. And also, when you are
but it'd be a bugger to carry, though, wouldn't it?
It is a bugger to carry. They are
7 bars of gold.
Heavy, yeah, exactly. Bloody heavy.
Briefcase like that.
Yeah, exactly. You would be. So, but if you think about it, you don't normally get to see it. So if someone does see it, you get that kind of golden light, which it's brilliant portrayed in the movie.
I think it's a light bulb.
You're immediately going, wow, I don't get to see it. Then you're trying to work out how much the value of it, because it's valuable, but to what extent?
Yeah.
So
I mean, you're probably right, but I think it's a boring answer.
Exactly, and I think,
but I haven't got a better one.
You can't say it's gold, because you're absolutely right. The way that they walk with the briefcase, if it was gold, they would be lifting the case up differently.
Well, unless it was only one bar, it might
heavy.
be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know much a gold. I don't know. Believe it or not, I've never seen a gold bar. I don't know what the hell they weigh.
I have.
I imagine they're heavy.
And they are heavy.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I have, and they are.
You nicked a couple, have you?
Yeah.
You want to admit that on YouTube? Okay.
No, I haven't nicked them. So yeah.
Okay.
Something to do with.
Neither have
I. So.
He loves doing that, dropping little clues, doing little, it's just a thing I do with work. Anyway, and everyone will go, oh, what, Alan, what are you talking about? What's that? Tell us that story. Because I do that
You would just have to find out.
Right. I find out in a future episode. There you go.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Right. Maybe when we do the Italian job or something.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, let's talk about, impact. This film was, obviously this is why we're doing it, but it had an enormous impact.
Huge.
Why did it tweak such a nerve at this particular time?
I think, and again, I'm going to go into the nostalgia aspects of this, so bear with me for a moment. But Hollywood went for a really big change in the mid-70s.
But Godfather and Bonnie and Clyde.
Godfather,
The Graduate, stuff like that.
Yeah, Graduate and
Easy Rider, for Christ's sake. That's
all the President's Men. So there'll be just some
Network.
Absolutely,
Taxi Driver,
3 Days of the Condor.
Yeah,
amazing film, absolutely, really groundbreaking. And it shook things up. And I think I'm not saying this was the same, but it was Hollywood in the 90s was getting. You would just do it. It was almost like they were making films by paint by numbers. You could tell what the movie was about. It was boring. And then Tarantino came on the scene and just smash. It was just, no, we're going to give you something completely different.
And he wasn't the only one, but he was absolutely the figurehead of that sort of. But I think it's interesting that, and again, I'm always going on about Peter Biskin, but I reread his book about the 90s as well. His follow up to Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, which is called Down and Dirty Pictures, which I've got on the shelf there. Yeah, and I reread that again recently, and that's all about. Well, it's all about Miramax, that era in the 90s when the sort of a lot of independent filmmakers managed to get funding and exposure through Miramax and other distributors and studios, and the small studios and things, and like the sort of the little dog biting the big dog and kind of making money as well and winning Oscars and all that kind of thing. And Tarantino was kind of the figurehead of that movement.
Yeah.
I mean, insofar as it was a movement, these things aren't deliberate; they're just like a scene, just sort of it just sort of happens. But so Pulp Fiction is kind of the centerpiece movie. It's the emblematic movie of that whole movement, really.
Yeah.
And I think and yes, it absolutely is like this, like what happened in the 70s with the movie brats. It's kind of like Hollywood getting a kick up the arse and getting reinvigorated, rejuvenated, and it's not happened again since. And I mean,
yeah,
God knows it needs it
definitely.
again.
I mean,
Hollywood absolutely needs it.
Exactly.
People say cinema's rubbish now and all that, and cinema's dying and all that.
Bollocks.
It's just Hollywood that's creatively bankrupt. And the other thing I think is that coming out in the 1990s, I remember the 1990s as being, I mean, it was the 80s really, where postmodernism kind of became a sort of cultural thing or movement or whatever. But I think the 1990s are kind of remembered as the postmodern decade, perhaps, where popular culture kind of started to refer back to itself, and Pulp Fiction was right at the vanguard of that. And I mean, I was sort of thinking, I was going to ask the question, did Pulp Fiction start that sort of down, or at least codify or make acceptable that sort of downward spiral of self-consuming cultural nostalgia that we're still sliding down today? Is Pulp Fiction the moment where pop culture started to die?
Interesting. Yeah.
It's a big question.
It is a big question.
We don't have to answer it here, but it's something
exactly.
to think about. And what do you think in the comments? Did pop culture start to die in 1994 when Pulp Fiction was released? Why am I? I should put my voice over here.
Exactly.
Yes. What do we think? Why am I leaning into the camera when my voice is over here? I feel like Pulp Fiction is remembered more for its cultural impact than for its actual artistic achievement. Not to disparage.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you on that. And that's maybe what I would have answered a little bit for your reply there. I think, to
answer my previous question.
Exactly, yeah. I think it had such an impact on audiences across the world, and that's why if you asked even non-movie goers to give them a top 10, I would be surprised where people wouldn't mention something like Pulp Fiction being in there.
Top 10 of what though?
Just favourite movies or influential movies.
But I suppose really that's all the more reason to do videos like this and say, well, look, I mean, maybe you've heard about Pulp Fiction, maybe you're sick of hearing about Pulp Fiction as I was before I saw it.
Again, my son and my nephew had not seen Pulp Fiction until I showed it to them like 6-7 months ago. It's a shame that a lot of people aren't aware of these classics, and I guess that's one of the reasons why we're doing these videos.
That's what I'm saying. I think they probably are, but they only by reputation or by name.
Exactly.
They haven't actually. Maybe people haven't seen it. In which case, I mean, I do recommend it because it is, like I said before, it's an enormously entertaining film.
Yeah,
it really is a lot of fun to watch. It's a compelling story. It's a series of stories. It's got great characters. It's very quotable. It's a movie that, I mean, it's got difficult things that will trigger. It's full of trigger warnings, but studded with trigger warnings. But I mean, I can't recommend it enough. It's an enormously fun film to watch.
Yeah, and even even
if it isn't about anything,
we've talked about this for years because obviously we've known about movies for years, and we talk like this generally when we get together anyway. But I mean, you've mentioned it before about how much this movie has been reviewed. Like if you were to go to university and study movies, how much this is used as a case study about how the industry has changed and how you can affect audiences and
film history,
dialogue, film history,
more than film reading film, perhaps. But
exactly.
That's that as well, sure. So in conclusion, I would say that lots of people love Pulp Fiction. But perhaps nobody loves it more than film nerds and film students. It's an absolute feast for people like them. I say them. I mean us.
Yeah.
But for everyone else, I think civilians, if you like, I think it's probably a bit like Star Wars or The Godfather. It's actually quite a traditional story. Even cliched sort of genre fare, but it's just done really, really well.
Yeah.
It's done in an interesting way, and it's done in an entertaining way.
Most people have actually watched this film already, but I guarantee it's one of those ones that people will just go to rewatch, or if it's on, they just like
Yeah,
flick through the
they'll leave
channels
it on.
and it's on. They will go, "Oh yeah, this scene's brilliant because of."
I'm going to
Or
tell a very short story, very
yeah,
short, like 3 lines that I've
mm,
just remembered, and I don't know why I didn't put it in my notes.
mm,
You and I think you were here
mm,
visiting a few years ago, and we
mm.
were channel hopping, flicking, and
Yeah,
we got to I think we were channel hopping with the sound off,
yes, yeah,
and
yeah,
we found a channel that was showing Pulp Fiction about halfway through or something,
yeah.
and we started watching it
Go
with
to
the
there.
sound off, and we
Yeah,
started
we
having
just
a
dialogue.
conversation
Yeah,
about. We started reading it to each other,
yeah.
like, "Oh, look at that shot there, the way that goes over there, and look at that cut
Mm,
there, and look at that lighting, and the color of
hmm
the outfit." And all this. Because of course, when you turn the sound off on a movie,
hmm
it can, even a dialogue heavy movie like this, it helps you to sort of pay more attention to what's going on visually, film being a
Exactly.
visual
Yeah.
medium
Mm,
primarily. So I think in a way Pulp Fiction is sort of responsible for the birth of A Run with the View,
mm. Yeah.
because I
So
sort
yeah,
of, even back then I think I sort of had the idea, oh,
we
we
should.
should
Yeah, we should.
we should do
Yeah,
something like this on like YouTube or something like that.
exactly.
No, well, that's not for the likes of us. We're scum. We're
Well, I
you
just
know?
I just remember,
Well, that's me. I'm
because
scum.
obviously, when we get together, the conversation generally heads towards movies anyway. After a
Yes,
period of time, anyway, and
yes.
then in other people that are around us, when we get into these conversations, so many people, and actually, I think it was my nephew that said you should actually put this on YouTube.
Why not?
So exactly. So
And
we are we
we
can't. Yeah,
some people
we're
watch
not
it,
just
so
doing this for the fact of us enjoying and loving movies because we'll just talk about this stuff all the time.
yeah.
Not that, oh, we've got something important to say. No, we know
No, it's
most
just
of the stuff we
our
come
thing. Yeah.
across and talk about, hundreds of people talked about before.
Actually, everything I say is important and interesting.
He always
I think we
says
should
that.
give it. I think we should call it day there because
Yeah, I
you
think
said
so.
you said your
Yeah,
meds were
because
kicking in and the
my
hot
kids,
toddies or.
I'm no longer kicking in. I'm
Oh, I
wavering.
see.
So
He's going
yeah,
to.
yeah,
Right, yeah. We need to
I'm
not.
flagging.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Let's call it. And I think we should have a
mhm.
little round of applause for Alan because he's done really
Thank you
really
very
well to
much.
come and do
Yeah.
this when he wasn't well and
Mm,
we've had a bit of delay. We had a few delays for reasons I won't go
we
into,
have.
but
No, exactly.
so we
So
want to
yeah.
sort of get cracking on recording again. I'm really glad we did
Hmm.
this. So thank you. I
Yeah,
mean that from the bottom
it's
of my
it's almost
rehydration
good to
unit.
be back, and hopefully I'll be firing on all pistons firing next time. So,
And
okay,
all cylinders
yeah,
pistoning,
pistoning with yeah, exactly.
something like that.
Yeah.
Don't
See,
forget
we're
to
rubbish
subscribe
with
and sub
quotes. That's why
like.
we don't give them. Yeah. So please,
That's right.
yeah, like and subscribe and
And
all
subscribe
that
and sub
jazz.
like,
And yeah, so watch out for the next interesting movie that we're going to review.
which is going to be. Do we know? I think we do know actually,
Well,
but we're not going to
we
say.
do.
All
We're
I'm
not
going to
going to say
say,
because
I'm not
then we
going to
can
say. Shall I
release these out
hint?
of context. So
And
yeah, no,
well, I know,
no,
but actually we're
no.
so short on backlog, so I think this is going to be the next one to be
You
published next
probably
in a
will
couple of
we?
weeks, and then
Yeah.
after that it'll probably be the next one we do. I
Mm.
think I know what it's going to be,
Okay.
and I'm not going to say.
No. Okay. We'll leave it for the audience to
So,
find out next time. So yeah, but it's going to be a one that you're all going to know and love, and
well, some of
so
you will
well
know
we
and
are.
love, and the rest of
Yeah.
you will
Go.
know and love it by the
Wow.
time. By the time.
Why haven't I seen this movie before?
Yeah, it sounds
Anyway,
great.
so bye bye for now,
Hurry up,
and
my hand's
yeah.
getting tired.
Okay. Fair.
That's not why your arm's
All
getting
right
tired.
then. All
Yes.
right. Good night.
Copyright Rip Mail 1993.
Yeah.
Bye everyone. Thanks
Bye
for
everyone.
watching. We love you
Yeah.
all.
We do. Love you. Like and subscribe, please. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.